Do I?
All right, please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Please be seated.
Councilmember Rye?
Present.
Councilmember Foreman?
Here.
Supervisor Rowe?
Here.
Councilmember Tati?
Present.
Okay, pledge roll call. We're going to adopt the agenda. We have two items for special consideration. One discussion and resolution to hire an attorney regarding downstate for the fire district, and the second one be a resolution to hire a rec employee. I'll present both as a motion to amend the agenda. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the public hearing for the 2025 preliminary budget. I'll make a motion to open the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so now is the public hearing for the budget. If anybody wishes to speak about the budget, you can speak now. Ms. Councilwoman?
Hello, Louise Daniele, legal resident of over 30 years. My printer didn't work tonight, so I'm going to have to read from my phone. Before I speak, I just would like to thank Carmine and Loretta Adams for the shirts that Loretta donated to the Highway Department in memory of Loretta's daughter, Jamie, who died of breast cancer. As a former council member and a breast cancer survivor, I appreciated being included and also in their group photo, which was the first Friday of the month to highlight breast cancer awareness. I think the entire board was invited, but I didn't see any of you guys there. So I would like to know if everyone on the board actually read the entire proposed budget. And if you did, you should have a list of questions like I do. And if you didn't, you shouldn't be on the board. I'm going to just speak about highlights, since I know anything I say won't make a difference to make changes, but the public should understand certain things. I'll start with the Highway Department inconsistencies. Page 48, general repairs expenditures, regular pay, which I believe is the highway workers, goes from $671,676 to $674,546, an increase of 0.4%. Why is it 0.4? Page 12, parks expenditures, regular pay, $364,474, up to $392,885, a 7.2% increase for the buildings and grounds guys who are getting opposed to the highway guys, 0.4. So they're all supposed to be under the same umbrella. If that's not true, or if there's a reason for that, I think it should be explained to the guys that they're not getting 7.2, and that should be documented properly. Page 49, highway outside the village, part-time pay, $74,100 down from 49, down to $49,400. Why is that? That doesn't really equal what we have now, so was there an error there? On page 12 of the parks expenditures, seasonal pay is up 11.8% from $41,700 to $49,400. Again, why is that up and the other one is down when people are actually working now? The highway workers will soon settle a union contract for the first time, so all of these numbers will change. It's like a shell game. You just have to know where to keep watching. Page 31, the police expenditure the pay for them for the police on page 31 is down 3.2% because council members Foreman and Rye failed to do their job and approve the PBA contract. There is still time to do the right thing and approve it and amend the budget to reflect the true numbers after we add their increases and their back pay. You also have to realize that you've affected the retired members because now they have to watch that they don't go over $35,000 or that will affect their retirement. And now on to the lack of process that Kenya and I spoke about since we were first on the board. There is no concrete system to evaluate how employees are given raises. And then there are stipends that aren't supposed to be carried over and are only given to certain people. The budget has a variety of raise increases from 0.4%, 1.7, 4, 5.9, 6.9, 7.4, 7.6, 12, 12.6, 14, 20, and the worst of all, 50% increase, which is where I will start. The town board members do not deserve a 50% increase to raise their salaries additionally $5,000, from $10,000 to $15,000. They didn't even deserve the 25% increase they received last year either, that raised it from $8,000 to $10,000. They didn't do anything to deserve the original $8,000. Before Mr. Foreman crossed over the East Fishkill borderline into our town of Fishkill to run for a seat on our town board. He came to meetings and complained about the salary being too low and there was no insurance for council members. That doesn't sound like someone who wants to be a public servant and work for the people. That sounds like a carpetbagger who continues to care about only himself, an opportunist who wants to take my taxpayer dollars and put it in his pockets, and the ability to help his former employer get town contracts and help his business partner's cousin who comes before the board for certain votes. We watched it last meeting. He showed us all that he works for Mr. Broccoli, not the people. And then, when the resolution failed, Mr. Foreman had no problem saying yes to the next developer who had to put up money for their project. He said yes to that without hesitation. I remember our third month on the board in 2022, I asked him if it was true that he was going to run for a Senate seat. He said, yes, if something better comes along, I'll take it. When his GOP party didn't want him, he changed to the Conservative Party, and I hear he may run for legislator. Please don't. Do the real legal residents who pay taxes a favor. When you go to work in East Fishkill tomorrow and you drive past the border of Fishkill, stay there. You do not deserve a raise at all. The residents deserve a refund from what you have taken from us. You gave $450,000 in raises last year when it wasn't budget time, and you continue to think it's okay to keep dishing them out. The county legislators didn't deserve their 68% increase last year either, and that wasn't right. I do, however, agree with the raise for the supervisor. He actually works full-time, and although I may not agree with him all the time, I know he and we, the old board, have the best interests of the people in mind, not politicizing our police department and creating continual photo ops for social media sites. I also agree with the highway superintendent raises as well as the judges who actually come out for calls. The prior supervisor, Lacola, he was shafted by the supervisor before him. She cut his salary significantly when she lost, and to his credit, he didn't just raise it back up. But he also never gave people raises that they really deserved. He gave them pennies, not percentages. So when we came into office, the supervisor tried to raise certain people who seemed to be forgotten, but it all never equals out because the other employees continue to get raises and stipends. I could go on, but I'm sure you get my point. Lastly, you didn't even give Ann LaGoy a measly $500 or $1,000 for the stray cats, but the council members gave themselves $5,000 more. How about you take out all of that $40,000 and give it to the stray cat program? She deserves it more than you all do. She actually does nonstop work for the good of the community.
Thank you. Anybody else? Make a motion to...
No, I think somebody wants to speak.
Okay.
Hi. As you know, my name is Ann LaGoy. Tonight I am here to ask, and maybe we missed it, but it seems that maybe we did not miss it. I did not see a continuation for money for the spay-neuter program. I'm not asking for a ton of money. $500 goes a very long way to help this program. It would give 40 certificates to residents of Fishkill and allow them to not only take care of their own pets, but we are often seeing now people who are out there doing what we call trap, neuter, return. We are in a population explosion. We are handling colonies, not just in Fishkill, but in Fishkill, and people, and I think, Becky can name a couple of people who do this trapping on their own, and now they can afford. So instead of putting that burden on stray help, they are themselves able to be empowered and purchase these certificates and utilize these certificates. Just to kind of put it in a little bit of perspective, Stray Help this year already has spayed and neutered nearly 950 cats. 950 cats spayed and neutered that will not be reproducing. Of that number, there are, just in the last 3 years alone, we have spayed and neutered nearly 900 street cats. There are colonies within Fishkill that have been brought under control, that are not reproducing, that are not burdening our residents. This is a simple ask of $500 that could be put somewhere in the budget that can be put somewhere in the budget, and I would appreciate if that effort is made to continue this very worthwhile program. Thank you.
Mr. Controller, can you come to the mic? Yeah?
You weren't going to tell us which way it is.
Who? Ann? Yeah. We're gonna, after he's done, I'm gonna ask for a couple things too. And if you guys want something asked too. So you're our new controller? Just, introduce yourself to the citizens of the town of Fishkill, please.
Oh, hi, I'm Keith Douglas. I'm the new controller for the town. I've been here since July 11th.
Okay. And just give us a quick rundown of the budget, the tax cap, that we're below it, what the tax rate's gonna be, et cetera.
We are below the tax cap. We are at 1.86. The tax rate, I don't have that in front of me.
This year was 2.0.
Yes. But we are below the cap. And the rates I don't have off the top of my head. I didn't bring any.
The tax rate for next year is gonna be what, 1.84, 86?
Yes,
Okay.
around there.
This year was 2.0, okay. Any board members have any questions for the controller? Greg?
No, I think you and I had a conversation before the meeting on, the extra $4,000 or $5,000 in the police budget for the online tech that we're offering the public. And, but we don't know the line, but we feel it's in there. So we'll discuss
Yes,
that.
all the budget lines stayed the same.
They stayed the same, so.
Yes.
But that's supposed to get a little bump.
They stayed what was input, not the same as last year.
Okay.
When we met with the PD, those were all put in and they weren't changed.
Is that good?
I just want to be convinced that 4 or 5 is in there, but I can talk to him tomorrow.
So the three things I like to do is I like to do the 500 for Ann. I'd like to give Debbie Colonna 1,500 extra. She helped you, Brian, with the website, saving the residents over $30,000 annually. And I'd like to go from the senior center from 3,100 to 5,000. You guys okay with that?
Yes, you and I talked about these things earlier today. I agreed with the $5,000 for the $500 for the cats, and I understand the extras. So especially Debbie Colonna, I was glad that the board had agreed to updating the website, but Debbie. And we were looking at contractors and how to do that, and I thought I found the less expensive way, and she found something that just was unbelievable, saving us tens of thousands of dollars. So, hats off to her, and I agree with that.
Would any of the board members like to make any changes for the budget?
No, but I'd like to second the amendments that you're proposing.
We'll do them all together if anybody else has any changes. Anybody else?
Not
have
at the
any
moment.
changes?
Not at the moment.
Okay, we could do it the other day too. All right, so do your motion.
Whoa. You got to close the public hearing before you do any motions on the budget.
Thank you. I make a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Make a motion to amend the budget as presented with those three items.
I'll second that as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we can change it back the other way when you're out of the meeting. All right, public hearing done?
Okay, I'll make those changes tomorrow to the budget and
Yes.
to you.
And just send an email to all the board members what the impact of that is on the tax rate.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I make one comment since my
absolutely.
name was brought up a few
Of
times?
course, of course.
So a few minutes ago, our former town board member talked about how the board is increasing our salaries by 50% and a whole bunch of other things. I think it's very important that the people are aware that the only person who created this document is the supervisor. This is his budget, and, I don't want anybody to think we're doing something that's off base here. It's the supervisor's budget, he presented it to us. It's our time for the next 2 to 3 weeks to go over it. But Louise acted like, John Foreman did this, and John Foreman's doing that. This budget was presented to us by the supervisor. That's it.
The councilman is correct. I present the budget, and I believe $15,000 for board members is a reasonable salary. Next up is the public hearing for the proposed local law regarding billboard signs. Mr. Gallo, I'm sorry, present that as a motion to open up the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Gabbard, can you give us a brief analysis, and then we can let the public speak?
Sure. As the town code is currently written, billboard signs are allowed only in the PI district along state roads. And there's a provision in it regarding approval of billboard signs, which says that billboard signs are approved by the building inspector. So if someone wants to put up a billboard sign in the town of Fishkill, it has to be in a PI district along a state road, and they just have to apply for a building permit from the building inspector. What this local law does is provide that billboard signs are allowed in PI districts only along Route 9, and the billboard signs will be approved by special permit granted by the town board. So in order to get a building inspector's building permit, you have to first come to the town board and present the design on your billboard and have the town board approve it.
Anybody wish to speak about that? Ms. LaGoy?
So I really tried to find it in the agenda packet, but I couldn't. My question is, and I'm not sure if this addresses or if it would be under the scope of the building inspector, but the moving signs, those LED signs on Route 9 in particular, and I go up and down that road frequently, are so distracting, and I'm really hoping that the town can make some kind of guide so that we don't have these flashing signs, and I'm consciously trying to avoid looking at it, but it's like, oh, I can redo my whole house, I can fly, I can do, get my car fixed. I mean, it's crazy, and it really is distracting. And that particular juncture, where the old golf course used to be, you're going from 3 lanes to 1, and then heading north, people are flying up and down that road, and that really is a dangerous, I think, a dangerous situation. So hopefully the town can do something to rectify that and really dissuade those moving traffic LED signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaGoy. Anybody else? Mr. O'Malley?
Good evening. Russell Malley. I just had a couple of questions. Know they're on state roads, but is there a predetermined maximum of billboards allowed in the town of Fishkill already?
No, there is not.
Who pays for the power consumed by the billboards?
Who pays for what now?
The power consumed from these billboards.
The power.
Power?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the
Whoever
usage.
owns the billboards.
Okay.
It's not us.
No, good. And if these billboards are for advertising for profit purposes, what is what profit is the town making from these billboards? Are
Assessed
they?
value, taxable revenue?
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you very much.
No problem. Anybody else? Billboards? Any board member, anybody, any questions?
No, I'm glad I brought it up, and you and I were talking about it, and we got it out here for discussion. I think it's a good idea to keep that growth under control and have knowledge of it, so, yeah, the electric. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Good work with you and Brian, and you guys worked on that, right? Okay. I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Third public hearing on proposed local law to amend the town code chapter 143, vehicle and traffic, 143-21, to add a new schedule, D as in David, entitled prohibition or limitation of vehicles on certain streets. I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing on that. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Gaba, can we just get a brief synopsis of this one?
Sure. In the town code's vehicle and traffic section, there are a number of tables or schedules that are listed. It has signs and stop signs at this intersection, yield signs at that intersection, and so forth. The highway superintendent had recommended that Merritt Boulevard be made no through traffic for truck deliveries. And in order to do that, we had to add a provision to the vehicle and traffic section regarding no through traffic signs. There was no schedule for no through traffic. The only roadway that was in there was Cary Road, and that wasn't written into a schedule. So what this local law does is create a schedule of vehicles prohibited on certain streets. After this law is adopted, going forward, the town board can amend that schedule by resolution. You won't have to adopt local laws in order to provide for no-through traffic or limits on trucks or truck weights. And in addition to that, of course, it adds Merritt Boulevard, a provision providing that on Merritt Boulevard, there'll be no through truck traffic except for local deliveries. And that's what the law does.
So,
Yeah, you were going to mention your monetary amount?
yeah, I do.
Okay.
So this is step one, and, correct? And then we come back and by resolution, we say Merritt Boulevard, that's in the town, no through traffic of trucks, 18-wheelers, whatever.
Well, this is step one in the sense that there will be no through truck traffic on Merritt Boulevard after this law is enacted.
Right, okay.
There's a step two in that the highway superintendent is going to work with the DOT to come up with a truck route, which will allow trucks to traverse the area that they would otherwise try
Okay.
to get to by going through Merritt.
That's what he's going to do.
Well, he's going to do that, and then
Yeah.
he's going to come back, and you're going to approve the truck route once he
Okay.
and DOT determine what the appropriate one is. That may take some time.
Sure.
So he wanted to move forward with this now. So-
Well, I do too, and it is a good idea. It hopefully works for those people that live in that area, there's no doubt about it. But when can we come back? After we pass this, we can come back and create a dollar amount for violation? Because I really want that to be an eye-opener, so trucks will...
You can do that by resolution and whenever it is the board, once this is enacted.
Yeah.
Whenever the board is inclined.
So we can come back and do that.
What's a reasonable fine for something like that?
I would want to talk with the highway super about that before
Okay.
I offer an opinion on it. So let me
So-
talk to Carmine next month.
Okay,
Next meeting.
we got
we'll have
time.
a board on it.
John, anything?
No, but what, would the judges have any clue on what the fine should be?
Well, there's a standard fine for V&T violations under state law, not so under town codes. You can, up to a certain point, prescribe a higher fine or a lower fine, but you must be consistent in the fines that you prescribe. You can't have one enormously high and others way below it. Once I talk to Carmine, I'll have a better idea of what it is. I'll give you some examples of similar infractions and what's charged for them to help you make your decision.
Because I'm looking for first violation, this dollar amount, second violation thereafter, this larger amount.
You can
know.
certainly structure it that way, Brian, but I have to give you an idea of what the appropriate amounts would be. And I'm
That's
in
what you're
position
gonna
to
work
do that tonight.
Yeah, I'm just giving you my thoughts.
Good, I like that. All right.
I like it too.
All right. Anybody from the audience like to speak about this? Councilwoman?
Louise Daniele. I'll address Councilmember Foreman's remarks when I come back up later. I don't agree with this commercial vehicles not being allowed on the roads. I think you should do what you said you were going to do first. You should speak with Carmine and speak to the DOT, because what if you pass this tonight and the DOT says, no, we don't agree with that, we don't want you to have the trucks go around, that's dangerous, or something like that. So I think you're doing it out of order. And I think if you go forward with this, there could be potential liability issues if you're going to make a tractor-trailer turn around just before the gap. I think it's going to confuse the tractor-trailer drivers that actually drive to the gap, at which they have a right to, because we have the gap built as a place for people to be employed. And then you say commercial vehicles. There are a lot of commercial vehicles that could just be less than the tractor trailers. So I feel like that needs to be clarified more. You could have a person with an electrical truck that lives in my area coming from Walmart driving through. So then he's going to be potentially pulled over and asked if he's doing local work. That doesn't make sense. He pays taxes. He should be able to get on that road just as well as anybody else can. I don't really understand what the disdain for the truck drivers is, to say that, you know, we got to hit them hard, we got to do this, we got to do that. This is the road they've been driving since it was created to do their jobs. So if you don't want them to drive through, you should find out who they are, which I think was part of what you said you were going to do originally, which was go to the Amazon place, have a meeting with them like we meet with the people at the state, and find out if that's who's actually doing it. And if it is, see if you can work out a resolution first before you make a law that potentially won't be able to go through, because DOT may say, oh, heck no, we're not going to make the trucks turn around on 52 or make a sign over here. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Make a motion to close the public hearing. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for that. Next up is acceptance of minutes, Town Board regular meeting, September 18th and October 2nd. I present the motion to accept both. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Next up is introduction of new employees. Do we have any new employees? Raise your hand. Miss, come up to the podium. And just explain to us who you are and why you want the job.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Bioneris.
Bring the microphone down a little.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Bioneris. I am 17 years old. I am a student at Beacon High School. I applied at the Recreation Center. Since I have 2 nephews, this allows me to create a bond with the kids at the Recreation Center. I'm looking forward to having this experience and learning new things as well. Thank you.
All right, stay there. Anybody have any questions for her?
No?
Welcome aboard.
So are you a senior?
Yes, at Beacon High School.
You know my son Nicholas?
Mm,
Okay,
no, I don't think so.
all right, just checking.
Don't
Welcome
try
to Fishkill.
You a matchmaker or something?
No, no. All right. Next up is privilege of the floor for general town items. Now's the opportunity to speak about anything regarding the town of Fishkill. You can go first.
Yeah, hi, Joanne Dyroff. Joanne Dyroff. I was here 2 weeks ago to speak about the park condominium on Loudon Drive in Fishkill, killing the geese, wanting to kill the geese.
Bless.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for giving me a forum. We got a lot of good feedback. I got a lot of texts, phone calls, emails in support of what we're doing. In fact, the president of the Village Park, which is right next to our property, we share the same driveway, wanted to be here tonight, Dean Bacon. He couldn't make it, but he's contacted our HOA president, Rob McAvery, told him that he's against doing what they want to do, and he would like to get together with with our property and work something out that's controls the populations in the future and doesn't resort to lethal, ways of controlling it. So I wanted to thank you for letting me do this.
Well done.
I did mention a permit that they are going to apply for, and I have it with me tonight. It's only a couple of lines. This is what it says about, it's called a migratory bird depredation. Depredation is plundering, killing. It's a nice word for it, right? A federal depredation permit authorizes you to capture or kill birds to help reduce damage to agricultural crops, livestock, private property, human health and safety, and protected wildlife. A depredation permit is intended to provide a short-term relief for bird damage until long-term non-lethal measures can be implemented to eliminate or significantly reduce the problem. We have none of those situations on our property, not one. And then it said you should apply for a depredation permit only after deterrents such as hazing, which is where they hire dogs to chase the geese away, and habitat modification. I talked about that, planting things around the water to deter them from coming. If it proves unsuccessful, then you apply for a permit. We've never done those things. If a permit is issued, you will also be expected to continue non-lethal measures in conjunction with any killing or trapping authorized. Just wanted to bring up the fact that we don't fill those requirements at all. So I'd like that to get out there. And I'd just like to read quickly 2 letters I received from residents that don't want to be identified. They just want to say what they have to say about the situation. The first one is, I am a 40-plus year resident of the Park condominium in Fishkill. We have beautiful trees, bushes, a pond, animal life, geese, ducks, deer, squirrels, and many kinds of birds. I want to say a few words about the geese. They are beautiful sentient creatures. They mate for life, care for and protect their offspring. It is amazing to watch them swimming and walking together as a family with parents in front and in back, carefully protecting their offspring from harm. They are together even when the goslings become adults. The only drawback is the poop, which is mostly grass and non-toxic. Some of us used to wash down the sidewalks, but the HOA disconnected the spigots and hoses because of water usage unrelated to the geese. The HOA tried fake swans and lasers to scare the geese away, but those methods didn't work. The geese were too smart and realized they were not in danger. The geese were comfortable here, had no predators, stayed year-round, and provided joy to many of us. The HOA had someone come to speak to us. He talked about addling eggs in the nest so that they wouldn't hatch, or removing them and round up where geese were rounded up, put into special trucks, and mercilessly gassed to death. The HOA is considering to get a permit to allow for a roundup. We had 5 nests during the past season, but none produced goslings. It was sad to watch Mom and Dad looking at the nests with no goslings. I cannot believe that the failure of all those nests to produce goslings was just a matter of nature. I remember seeing many geese gathering together afterwards, almost in a meeting. Shortly thereafter, the number decreased. I'm convinced they realized they were no longer on friendly territory and left. I believe this is a new flock that we have now. The goose population here has naturally diminished greatly in the past few months. We now have about 24 geese. Since Memorial Day, there is no poop on the sidewalks. The geese are not coming near the buildings. They hang around in the pond. Some days they're not even there. I haven't heard them honking for months. I walk around the complex and don't see them some days. People here are horrified, but the HOA won't take a survey to see what the residents want. They refuse to let wildlife protection groups come for free to speak on how to use methods to diminish the number of geese, i.e. by planting around the pond or not cutting the grass too low. There's no reason to round up the geese, leading them to an unbelievable death. They do not present any problem. There's nothing to complain about. Furthermore, the end result of a roundup would be that a new flock of geese will come. So the roundups will continue. The HOA should not engage in such a barbaric, horrific, inhumane, and evil act. I hope they listen to reason. The next one's much shorter. I have lived in the park for over 13 years. One of the things that attracted me to buy here was the pond with the geese and the ducks. Since I've lived here, the geese have never been a problem. Now our HOA board of 9 people has decided they needed to be rounded up and killed because they are a nuisance. The geese do not bother anyone or any other wildlife, and they don't destroy any property. Our HOA board has refused to listen to any other options to deter the geese without using lethal methods. They also will not give our 180-plus owners any say in this decision. I think this is horrific, and they need to be stopped. And I also just wanted to end with saying we will get covered with a story from some local TV news outlet very soon. So thanks very much for having the forum for us to get up and speak. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Anybody else left? Councilwoman?
I just had 3 things that aren't on the agenda. At the last meeting, you promoted a lieutenant, and you hired 2 part-time police officers as new employees. I would just like to ask that you have the lieutenant and the 2 police officers come back and introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves, as the rec center employee did tonight, which is the right thing to do. I find it interesting that Councilmember Foreman, out of everything I said, the only thing he had to say was that the supervisor created it. The supervisor just asked if you'd like to make any changes, and you didn't say, I don't deserve that, take it out. So we shall see if you do the right thing in the next 2 weeks and correct it and remove it, as it is an unnecessary raise. I wouldn't hold my breath, though. I would only ask if I'm used to Sharon as the comptroller, if the new comptroller next time maybe comes with the entire budget, so if somebody has a question, you can actually go through it, just procedurally, what may be a little bit easier. I said that Loretta's daughter who passed away was Jamie. I apologize for that. I had the wrong name written down. It was Christine, so I just want to make sure that everybody knows it was Christine that passed away, and she's missed very much. And Jamie who was at the photo opportunity that the highway superintendent invited us to. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Cantor? Ms. Puma?
Good evening. I'm Suzanne Puma, the Human Resources Director for the town, and I'd like to request to meet for executive session to discuss personnel issues. After Mr. Cantor, I guess.
No.
No?
I have no interest in you?
I'm not aware of any for.
Okay.
The HR director, the town board members are not interested in discussing personnel issues?
We'll discuss it maybe tomorrow.
Well, the whole board won't be there tomorrow, and I did try to discuss it with you today.
And An executive session may be appropriate in the future, but I have not been briefed, and I would.
That's what
prefer
the
to
meeting
have-
would be for.
I'd prefer to have any documentation available to read and review so we can engage in an informed conversation for that. Perhaps if one is necessary, we could schedule one for our
I mean,
next time meeting.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I've never received an email from you since you've been the town board member. So I would have sent it to the board via email, but I've never received any emails from you since January. So if I sent it ahead of time, I don't think you would have read it. So that's why I thought that Mr. Gaba, is the HR director not allowed to request a personnel executive session to discuss personnel issues? Because I don't know how else we can discuss them with the four, since they can't be together.
Certainly are entitled to request it, but it's up to the board to determine whether to go into closed session or not.
So do they vote, or?
Could I just say something, Ms. Puma?
Sure.
Is that all right? This is the first time I'm hearing something. Usually, we are informed before. I agree with Greg. I have no idea what's going on. If this is something that's controversial and touchy, I would want to have some information in hand, you know, even sent confidentially to the board, so we're aware. I don't want to make you feel bad. I'm very interested in what you have to say as a professional, but it's a little awkward this evening for me. Just respectfully, I hope you can appreciate that. I didn't realize that you were going to.
And in the past, when I have requested to have an executive session, I was told that I wasn't able to do that by the supervisor. So that's why I thought I would come to this meeting. I did take a half a day today. I did try to speak to the supervisor before I left on my way out the door, when he came in around 12:30 or so, and then I had to take my daughter for dental surgery today. So I had I used the afternoon as a half a sick day, so I came in today, just hoping that we could discuss this issue. So there's nothing that has to be voted on tonight or anything like that, just I don't know how else to get to speak to the town board unless I do it this way. I tried other avenues, so.
I mean, you and I are always in conversation, or not always.
If I had more time, I would have called you,
regularly,
but I was in Briarcliff at the
communicating
surgeon.
with us is pretty open, and so I'm just a little, I'm not quite, I don't know what else to say.
I mean, I've spoken to both the supervisor and yourself earlier today. I have an idea of what it is you want to speak about. We are going into an executive session in a few minutes.
We're not.
We're not.
We got nothing there.
I think we should at least vote on it.
Well, the thing about that, John, I don't mean to make a big deal about it, but if you want requests for executive session to be on the agenda, then you have to submit a request.
It is on the agenda.
It's always on the
That's
agenda.
not this executive session.
Yes.
Come on, this just came up.
I'm just telling you, it's on the executive.
No, it says executive, but it's not this HR.
It's a placeholder.
So if she wants to have it, then she
Going to
should
executive session.
submit a request, and if either the supervisor puts it on of his own volition, or if two board members are willing to vote to have it on, then it goes on the agenda. But to come in and say, I want to have an executive session out of a blue sky, I mean, it's just procedurally not right.
Executive sessions typically are scheduled in advance, where we'll know coming into a meeting that we'll either be holding one perhaps at the end of the meeting or towards the beginning of the meeting, wherever the supervisor feels it's appropriate in the meeting to hold.
So no one on the board is interested to know what me as the HR director would like to discuss?
Any questions that you have, but if you're suggesting, as you just said, that this is not something that would need to be voted on this evening.
It's just
then
something
I
that
see
should
no
be
reason why it couldn't be scheduled for our next town board meeting in keeping with.
On
town board
November
procedure.
3rd? So you'd rather wait until 3 weeks to discuss an item that could be something important? I just think that, I tried to speak to the supervisor about this morning, and I was kicked out of his office, so.
You were kicked out of my office because you were rude and insubordinate, ma'am.
No, I was.
That's why you left, and I have a witness to
No.
prove that. So,
I
if you have any other questions, you can
I was
answer them as
kicked
a
out of
citizen.
your office when you asked me to leave.
You were told to leave.
Because you didn't like what I was saying to you, the truth. And I don't want to bring it up in front of all of these people. That's why I asked to have.
Ms. Puma, you were disrespectful 3 times. I told you to leave my office 3 times, and you didn't leave. That's the bottom line.
No, you got up and you left the office and
Yes.
opened the door, and I didn't want to discuss it in front of
Yes.
your secretary.
Yes, I wanted you to leave. Whatever you want to say,
All
you can
right.
say it here.
I just thought that you were very transparent. I always hear about how transparent, we're the most
I am
transparent town.
You're being very disrespectful right now as an employee.
This is why I wanted to speak to you
Ladies and gentlemen in the town of Fishkill,
private.
this is an employee who's the HR director that is talking like this to the town board. Hope you see this. What are you laughing about? You think it's funny?
I'm just laughing that it's just funny.
It's not funny. Anybody else wish to speak about anything on, regarding town items? Mr. Cantor.
Good evening. I had intended to be here for the public hearing on the billboards and signs, and sorry I got here late, but with the board's indulgence, I have comments that are related kind of to that, but a little bit more broad as well to other town interests. So I have some stuff in writing, if I could just bring that up and leave it with the board.
Sure.
What I was going to say in relation to the billboards is that I appreciate the good work that the town board is doing on strengthening and enhancing some of the town code provisions, and I support the proposed local law regarding billboard signs. It'll help to clarify the existing provisions that prohibit off-premise signs, including billboards, and sets forth a reasonable exception to allow billboard signs in the planned industrial districts along Route 9, subject to grant of a special use permit by the town board. So I would request that the town board please adopt this local law as soon as possible. However, and this gets into the bigger town code issues, and also the comprehensive plan update. So remember that the recent comp plan update adopted in May of 2023 designates a large portion of Route 9 in the south of the town, including the area of the former Duchess Mall area, as a gateway entrance to the town. Recommending special attention to the design and visual impacts of proposed development and structures in these gateway areas. The unfortunate thing with the two billboards that were recently erected along Route 9, based on sign permits issued by the town's building department, those are not even located within the planned industrial district. They're actually located in the general business zoning district on the east side of Route 9. They also are LED or digital display boards or animated signs which do not appear, or at least in some interpretations, don't appear to be allowed in the town's existing sign regulations. So there's a provision in there specifically that talks about signs with flashing, blinking, intermittent or moving lights, or any artificial light which is not maintained stationary and constant in intensity and color at all times when in use, except for signs displaying time and or temperature. Anyway, we can get into more of that, but I'd recommend basically that the town board consider addressing LED digital display signs as a next step in clarifying and updating the town sign regulations. There might be a way of the future, but without reasonable updated regulations could proliferate through the town's landscape with the potential for driver distraction and the visual impact of brightly lit signs in our community. I'd be happy to work with the town board either through the planning board or through a possible comprehensive plan implementation committee on a next step in updating the town sign regulations. In fact, the Dutchess County Planning Federation has published a really good newsletter article entitled Shedding Light on Digital Signs, which discusses issues surrounding digital signs and suggestions for reasonable regulations. Thanks for your consideration.
Can you pass me can you get me that newsletter? I'd like to look at it.
Yeah, I'll send it to all the board members.
Good. And you're the current planning board chairman, right?
Yes, I'm the current planning board chair.
And you worked with the comprehensive plan and our updates.
Yeah, and I'm very interested in being on a comprehensive plan implementation committee if the board chooses to do that.
Thank you very much for all your hard work, Mr. Cantor. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good.
All right. You and I talked about the implementation committee as far as that was for, coming before the board on the agenda. That should be at the next meeting. But anyway, we're discussing the billboards because I was driving along and saw electric billboards where we're talking about on Route 9 and said, what the heck? What is this all about? And so that's why we're here now. And I agree with comments about them. Well, if they're specifically in certain areas, that's why we're going to have input on where they should go, if at all, because I certainly don't want them scattered all across this town. But I think those lights are real bright, and they, for me as well, I do lose focus on driving because I want to look at them. So
Yeah.
I'd love to read what you have to share, so that'll be very important.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yep, thanks.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Ms. LaGoy?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cantor, for the segue. I actually was going to be asking about the Comprehensive Plan Implementation Committee and wondering where we are with that. And Councilmember Rye just said that it should be at the next meeting. Is that in implementation, like to initiate that? Are you accepting resumes? How does one get onto that committee? Where do we stand with that?
That's going to be discussed at the meeting. That'll be in there. That's for discussion next meeting.
Mhm.
When it's not going to be implemented right away.
So anybody interested might want to attend that meeting because that's where a discussion will be had for the implementation committee.
Mr. Gabbard, does that need a public hearing or just a resolution to do
No,
that?
it's just a resolution, but
Oh.
it's a very far-reaching committee. It's the whole comprehensive plan, and how to structure the committee is a difficult thing to come up with. So I've been working with some of the board members on a resolution which would create the committee and define its purpose and, set some guidelines as to how it'll operate. And
Great.
it's not going to, well, who knows? Maybe it will be adopted right out of the box, but my guess is the board's going to look at it and want to make some fine tuning before they adopt it. So it will be ready for consideration, discussion at the next board meeting. I do not know that it will be ready for adoption, maybe the second meeting in November, maybe.
Great.
I don't know. We'll have to see what the board thinks of it.
Yeah, that's great. I just want to make sure it isn't lost.
Why would it be lost?
I'm just saying, well, you just never know why things get lost in the shuffle, Councilman Rye.
Well, you don't know that I met with John Cantor on it?
I do know that.
Well, then why would it be lost then?
One never knows, Councilman Rye,
It just
why
wouldn't be
things are
lost.
lost in the shuffle.
If we talked about it, it's not
I think you're getting
lost.
defensive, and it's certainly...
I'm making a joke out of it. We met,
Okay.
we're working on it, and you thought it's going to be lost. I think it's kind of
I'm glad
humorous.
to hear that,
Thank
that
you, Mr.
it is
Lloyd.
still being worked on.
Thank
Thank
Mr.
you.
Lloyd. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say, you guys should be concerned. You guys should be concerned about what's going on or possibly going on where I live, because it'd be, to my knowledge, the first time they ever did this in the town of Fishkill. And I don't think you want that kind of reputation.
What do we mean the first time?
The first time that they've ever done a roundup of geese.
Oh, okay, I
And
understand.
kill, and gas
I
them.
understand.
So what I'm saying is you should be concerned
gosh,
about the
thank you.
reputation, because the towns that have done this in different states, they're getting a lot of
Bad-
publicity, and
bad
it's not great. So, that's it, thank you.
That's a good thought. All right, next up is executive session, which there will be none. Next up is liaison member reports. Anybody want to start first?
Sure.
John?
Okay, good evening, everybody. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I spent a little time on this subject in front of my computer, printed off a blurb about it, and of course, left it at my office. But in any case, I'm wearing pink tonight in support of this worthy cause. Friday, October 4th, I joined my colleagues and the highway superintendent for the first game under the new lights. I'll let everybody else talk about it, but I thought it was pretty exciting, and I know the kids were excited.
Absolutely.
Wednesday, the 9th, I had a meeting with our comptroller and Sharon, with Brian on the phone, to discuss the supervisor's tentative budget. Saturday, October 12th, was a busy day. Attended the Fishkill Fall Festival at Gearing Park. Big shout out to Jason Mayetta and his crew, who do a great job as always. And stop by the Van Wyck Homestead for their event as well. And on Sunday, I want to thank the supervisor who performed a wedding ceremony at my request, not my wedding, but for a few friends of mine. So thank you.
My pleasure, John.
Okay. Let's see. I had a really good conversation. We just got an email from Arnold Restivo, our town historian. Y'all excuse me tonight. I've got a bit of a cold. And he's given us great lineage on the historical ownership through the centuries, actually, of Camp Foster. And I was very interested to come across some information how the town of Fishkill bought it in 2006. So, but it's a very interesting lineage. I have been working on the film permit that we've got to get done, and hopefully we'll have a draft of that for the next meeting. Internal signage of this building, I've got info, and we'll be emailing what that looks like to people, see what you think. I did go to the same light turning on ceremony at Shepherd Park and seeing all the kids. I mean, it's just great to see kids in the summertime anyway, playing ball. It just makes your, I feel like the world has got some normalcy in it. And but at nighttime when the light's on, and these guys felt very special out there. And it just was a great investment by the town to do that for the town of Fishkill. Also, the Fishkill Fall Festival. And my hat is off to the Recreation Center and all staff for killing it out there. It was just magnificent. It was so overwhelmed. If you didn't get there, I think within 15 or 20 minutes of it opening, you probably couldn't get a parking place. It was so popular. I then went to Van Wyck Historical House for their annual event. And I missed the photo at Highway with breast cancer. I had a doctor appointment myself that day, unfortunately, and but that was a very, very good thing that everybody did, and certainly Loretta, in memory of her daughter, and that's it.
Greg?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much of what's already been said, but great day at Van Wyck Homestead this past weekend, great day at the Fall Fest. I do just want to give a quick shout out to Lieutenant Wood and to our community policing unit who were present there. They were handing out gift bags and goodie bags to the kids, and one of the things that they had was a little gift bag which had some knickknacks and other things inside it, and it included some really great Halloween safety tips for the kids. Obviously, Halloween coming up at the end of the month, and I felt it would be appropriate to share some of those Halloween safety tips from our Fishkill Police Department. Rule number 1, always go trick-or-treating with an adult. Number 2, wear a costume that lets you see and hear normally. Number 3, make sure that your costume fits so that you don't trip over it. Tripping and falling, especially in the dark, can be dangerous. Visit only places that you know. Don't go into neighborhoods you're not familiar with or with people who you aren't familiar with. Take a flashlight with you, as it does get dark pretty early this time of year, and make sure when you come home with all of your goodies at the end of the night, have an adult check all of your candy for you. And a reminder for children and adults that the trick-or-treating curfew that our police department observes every year on Halloween is 8 p.m. That's all I got.
Wow. Thank you. All right.
That's not enforced.
Oh, I can attest, having grown up in Round Hill,
Yeah.
a very popular trick-or-treating destination for the kids who live in there, a lot of families live there, that by 8:15, always, like clockwork, there's always a town of Fishkill police vehicle going in and making sure that the kids are getting home safe, and that the families are abiding by that rule.
They're not on Florence Avenue.
If we can get extra patrol car for that night, you guys okay putting it on the road?
Sure.
Okay.
I think it's probably a good idea.
All right. Everybody said what I was going to say. It was very good on Saturday with the Oktoberfest presented by the Rec Center and the Van Wyck Homestead. That was 2 great events in the town of Fishkill, and it was great to attend with my fellow board members. A lot of stuff going on in the town of Fishkill. and we're going to keep it going. So next up is presentations, which we have done. Next up is discussions. The first one is discussion on accessory apartments and buildings. Mr. Gabb, any update on that?
I've been working on the revised draft. As I'm sure you recall, the board had asked to have limitations set on square footage for the accessory buildings. I will have a draft for you for the next meeting.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, guys?
No.
Table it to second November meeting. We'll give them a month.
Sounds good.
Next up, discussion of good cause eviction law. Any update on that?
I've provided you with the good cause eviction law and a memo on it.
I'm just saying, give us an update on it.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, I have prepared a good cause eviction law modeled after the good cause eviction law that was adopted by the city of Beacon. And what Beacon did, and what I'm proposing the board do, is adopt local law that incorporates by reference the provisions of the New York State good cause eviction law as applicable to local municipalities. Most of the provisions in the state law are mandatory and can't be varied, but there are a few that they allow municipalities to tailor the law to their own preference on. And there are two areas in particular where Beacon did that, and we've done the same thing in the draft law for the town. One of them is the definition of small landlords. The state law provides kind of a placeholder of small landlord as constituting the owner of properties, more than 10 rental properties. And the way that Beacon has defined it and the way that this draft law defines it is the owner of more than one rental property. So the law is cast as broadly as possible in its applicability. The other is in the percentage for what I call luxury apartments. The state law exempts luxury apartments of, I forget exactly what the percentage is, and it's like 300% above market value. And you can make it substantially lower. Every municipality, except for the city of Kingston, has set it at, I think, 375%, whereas Kingston is, I think, 300%. I may have the numbers off on that. But it's the lowest number that any municipality, excepting for Kingston, has adopted, which means that it captures more apartments, even when they're above market value, in terms of making the good cause eviction law applicable to it. I'll just touch on quickly what the good cause eviction law does. It requires landlords to renew leases once they expire on term, unless there's good reason not to renew a lease, so they can't arbitrarily say, I'm not going to rent to you anymore. They now must continue to rent to people who have existing legal leases. In terms of increases in rent, it sets a cap at 10% annually for increase in rent. It is, however, a soft cap. That is to say that if a landlord can justify in court an increase of more than 10% based on expenditures that he's made for improvements to the building or the like, then it can be more than 10%. But absent that, there can be no more than 10% increase. And there are notice requirements as far as the applicability of the good cause eviction law. They have to be in leases, they have to be in notices for eviction and things along those lines. So that's the way the law has been drafted. It's just on tonight for consideration. If you want to introduce it and set a public hearing on it, I've provided you with a resolution. If you want any changes or need more time to think about it, that's fine too.
So,
Thanks, Steve.
go on.
I had a conversation with Greg about it, and Greg, are you still thinking we need just a little bit more time to
Well, what I'm thinking is...
go over it? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that what we need is robust public input. So obviously, moving forward with the public hearing, I think the supervisor has always been eager to advertise the undertaking of major legislative items such as this, and I'm sure that you'd be happy to include that in your eGov letters to invite people to come forward, because I think with something as important as this, it's important to hear as many voices from the community as we can. One note I would just like to give you, Steve, is that I've had a chance to do some reading on good cause eviction, and when we're talking about the rent increases, one of the things that I've read in the state law is that it is either 10% or the CPI plus 5%,
That's true.
whichever is lower.
That's true. It provides that.
I was going to say, is that language in our
Yes,
law,
it
or, oh, so that is,
I
that's
just use the
currently how our
10%
law is
because
drafted?
generally speaking, that's going to be what the limit is. Rarely will the CPI
Plus
percent
5%
be
be
more
less
than
than
10%. But I
Right.
mean,
Can you provide me like a half a page of
vote
something?
upon it, sure.
This way I can send it out, work with Councilman Ryan on that, and prepare that, so we can prepare that for the EGOV on Friday.
Yeah.
And if you, whatever you two guys agree on, I'll put it on there.
Okay, because I remember, I brought that up with you, Greg, and I mean, people from both sides of this need to make sure you come out and give us your opinion. Let us hear from you. Both sides of this, there are voices out there. And don't just give a call to council members, show up.
Right. And, yeah, I gathered when we spoke that we were very much in agreement that this is something that we'd like to see happen, but we want to make sure that as we're making that decision, that we're taking into account the input of as many voices as possible so that we know that we're enacting a provision that the community will be behind and support.
So when we set the public hearing, it's okay for the second meeting of November? Is that?
Sure.
Okay, all
We
right,
should be good to go.
all right. So you two work on that message, and we'll send it out to the
Sure.
residents. Thank you.
When do you think you might want to send me a draft or something?
Yeah.
Tomorrow?
Half a page, Mr. Gallo, not,
I could do that.
Yeah.
all right.
There may be bullet points in it to get back.
Well, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever Brian agrees with.
Bullets works.
Yeah. All right, next up is discussion of waiving the water bill fee. So we had a senior that had a leaky, a running toilet. It's unusual. He's facing hardships. What are you guys' thoughts on that? I'd like to do it. It's $1,100, $1,173, I believe.
You believe it's totally legit?
Yeah. It's up to you guys. I would support it.
I really hate to get in the habit of it, but I understand that we are a forgiving town, a loving town, and this is a gentleman, what age is he?
I didn't ask.
Yeah, but he's,
This is-
80.
he's 80.
She's a widow and 80 years old.
Oh, okay. I mean, sure.
John?
Yep.
Yeah.
Brian?
All right,
Greg?
just to be clear, if you do waive it, it's not based on age or hardship, it's because they had an alarm that didn't go off. So
Sounds
they have
good.
no way of knowing, it's unusual, special circumstances.
Special circumstances.
It's exactly what I meant when I asked the question.
Very good, okay.
It's just, it didn't sound like it.
All right, then the big one we were working at, I'm sorry? There's no resolution for that? Okay.
We need to prepare one for the next meeting.
Steve, can you do us a resolution on
I'll
that?
talk with Joe and we'll work one out, sure.
Well, do we need to have a resolution for it?
No, I didn't do a resolution on this.
No,
Do we need one?
Do we need one for,
Yes, of course, if you want to waive it, you do.
So we'll do it for the next meeting? Do a resolution? Okay. Next meeting, please, just a resolution. Only resolution. Next up is resolution for water and sewer connections for the Chestnut Petroleum Distributor. So what we have is, we're trying to create a loop system for the Bickerhoff Water District. And if you know, if you live up in Dutchess Park, the northern part of town on 8252, the new firehouse, we're running a water line from Ocean Odd Job underneath the street to the firehouse. From the firehouse, we want to go more northeast, and this commercial development would like to hook into water and sewer. And then if we can carry this on to the deli that's right in front of the Doug Phillips Park, we would have what's called a loop system. So if a part of the system broke, we could have water go the different direction. So this would get us closer to that. Going from the firehouse to that spot is about $600,000. And if we get these guys in the mix, it'll keep lowering that number. And once that happens, we'll see if we can do the loop system with maybe a light fee for anybody or anything like that. It's going to be a really good thing. We're also working on the interconnection from Merritt Boulevard to Bickerhoff. It's going to be a phenomenal water system upgrade. And with the interconnection, we went from 5.6 million to 1.2, and basically most of that's going to be paid for by ARPA money, federal government money. So it should be taxpayer free. Everybody okay supporting that?
Yes.
Number 4?
Absolutely.
That's in a resolution?
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, discussion of resolution to accept the resignation of Officer Karaman. Everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Next up, town board discuss Camp Foster to the new name of Town of Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park at Camp Foster. He left?
The historian has stepped out. yeah.
Yes, but I think Virgil and...
Well, my only question was, I love the biography on this,
Yeah.
I just don't understand why he mentioned anything about Camp Forster being a garrison during the Revolutionary War. Anybody ask him to look for that?
It was in there, it was never a garrison, is what he said.
Yeah, but I'm saying, who told him to look for that? I never...
Oh, no, I asked him to find out the history. I asked him to do this.
Okay, fair enough, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I wanted to make sure we weren't stepping on somebody's toes, or...
No, perfect,
You know.
perfect.
Yeah, and I agree that it doesn't end up,
Yeah.
doing the research is always a good thing.
Sure. Yep.
I would say now, holding the history of this property in my hand, that it would be a little distasteful to rename the park.
Why?
I was initially very much in favor of it, but there is a history to the park and, its connection to the Brinkerhoff family, its status as a Girl Scout camp. I think that if we're thinking about representation and history and honoring the history in the town of Fishkill, that one of the important things to do is to keep alive those names of places that are of particular significance. If we were to flip things around in the reverse and have a battlefield, I don't think anyone would be in favor of making it a Girl Scout camp. I think that aspects of history should be recognized, and that the Town of Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park should be a separate entity and not simply take the name of an existing park that has a history of its own. I think that our veterans deserve a space that is specifically, throughout its whole history, theirs, and not sort of piggyback off of the history of something else, and in so doing overshadow it. I know that the veterans wouldn't want their name to come at the cost of the history of something else. I know what history means to our veterans. So I personally would suggest that we hold off on the resolution on this evening and find a more appropriate place to designate as the Town of Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park that will not end up erasing a different aspect of our town's history.
Yeah, we have to disagree on this one. I'm ready to vote on this tonight. How about you, John? Brian?
Of course I am.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
So, it went from Brinkerhoff owned to, I read through this, somebody owned a farm, and then somebody who decided to give it, not related to the Brinkerhoffs or anything like that, and gave it to Girl Scouts, and then the town purchased it. So I think that, if you wanted to name it something Brinkerhoff, that's more historically significant than what it is now, Camp Foster, but it doesn't take away from that history by adding on what I think is a good spotlight in a park, and this is a part of the purpose here. Nobody knows of this park. Nobody goes to this park. It's a great resource right there in that part of town that I think this is going to not only do honor to the veterans, but also bring additional spotlight to this park. And I look forward to actually touring the park once again with Carmine Itzvon, Highway Superintendent, and with Virgil Capillari, who's here, so we can talk about potential enhancements to this park. So not only does it look great and have its appropriate signage, but also sort of attracts more people in the neighborhood to come and enjoy it. So with that, Virgil, is there anything?
Yeah, can I ask Virgil to come up? Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah, of course.
I just want to make sure that the veterans are okay with us going forward with this.
The veterans are more or less support, without doubt, we support the renaming of it.
Okay.
We don't like to step on anybody's history, like you said, but because it was bought by the town, I think it belongs to the town, and it's up to the town to decide what they want to do with it. And we appreciate honoring those by doing that, and we'll support it in any way we can, and we look forward to working with the board in any other situation like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, would you be more apt to support this if we did like a plaque of the history of the site? Because if you're worried about history, listen, I've been here all my life. I had no idea all this stuff was going on here. The place, it was a dairy farm.
Yep.
They went out of business. There was nothing really out of the extraordinary in any of this.
Right.
Just tell us who bought it, who sold it, what happened.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I'd like to say I wholeheartedly agree with Brian that there should be upgrades and improvements to the park to make it more of an attraction and a space that our community uses more. I hate to think of it as being a rather empty space. I just don't see an immediate correlation with renaming it and those types of investments being made. I don't think that one needs to be contingent upon the other. I think that we could convert it into a space that the residents of the town could fully maximize their recreational enjoyment out of it without necessarily kind of giving a finger to the Girl Scouts of America. And that's kind of what we're doing.
That's a little dramatic.
Would you like to, if we had a plaque in there showing the history, including the Girl Scouts, would you reconsider?
I would certainly vote in favor of a plaque, but that will not change how I vote this evening.
Good enough. Thank you, guys.
I think that the veterans deserve a park of their own that has no secondary history that gets erased by renaming. That's all.
Thank you. It goes to the resolution. The porta pot, now the porta pot's going to be something different.
Quick,
Our historian has a...
Yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, he came back?
he's back.
Can I just say one thing?
Before you say anything, I want to say thank you for putting this together.
Thank you,
folks.
Arnold.
That's pretty good.
Yes,
Now you can
you're
go.
welcome. Just quickly, I just want to make a mention. The deed gives a lifetime estate, a limited lifetime estate for the Girl Scouts to use the park. That's all I wanted to say.
That's
that they're
important.
still involved in the park. I attached the email to the town board with a copy of the deed that I was graciously able to get from Jason.
It'd be great to see him
We have a
there, so,
dedication, invite
yeah.
everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You know, whoever's.
You okay with a plaque? Do that?
yeah, of course.
All right. Next up is the number 7, discussion of resolution to promote Cassidy Scott to full-time police dispatcher. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Number 8, discussion to introduce proposed local law to enact a new town code chapter 160 entitled Rental Properties Prohibition on Eviction Without Good Cause. Is that a duplicate?
Yes, that's the same thing we discussed earlier.
That one you can close out, Becky?
Well,
No?
actually, that's the one that you moved to resolution.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the one that gets moved to resolution.
This one gets moved to
This
resolution?
is the discussion of the actual resolution to set the public hearing.
Okay. Next up, discussion of resolution to approve peddler's permit for Wee Doggies Hot Dog Wagon. Everybody okay with that?
Yes, and I would just like to say that my mother, for all my lifetime, has been a huge fan of hot dog stands in general, and she is an even bigger fan of puns. So I'm absolutely certain that my mother, who is home watching this, will absolutely adore the name of the Wee Doggies Hot Dog Wagon.
Very good. Next up, number 10, discussion of resolution authorizing remediation of property maintenance violation and improvement agreement, 60 West Redoubt Road. Mr. Gaba, we worked and we got it done a little earlier.
Yeah, the bottom line, Mr. Supervisor, is that the property owners are consenting to the proceedings under the town's property maintenance provisions. And you're going to have an order, which you enter, that's on for tonight as well, finding that the property maintenance violation exists and directing that it be remediated by the town. Property owners are signing an agreement to allow the work to be done and also to allow the entry of that order. So there's 2 steps here. The first is approving this agreement, and then the second is entering the order under the property maintenance provisions of the code.
And this forecloses the need to do the property maintenance public hearing.
Yes, it speeds things up considerably. You don't have to wait the 30 days to hold the public hearing. You don't need to make the findings, then you can actually do it right now, which is why everything's being done at once.
Well, I'd just like to say excellent work, Steve.
Yeah.
'Cause we know how important this has been. A number of residents came to our last meeting to speak about it, and all of them emphasized the importance of moving swiftly. I know it was, a matter of importance for the property owners as well. So to be able to hash this out so that we can get moving on this right away, well done.
Thank you.
And a compliment, Steve. You should be happy.
Do we have a dollar amount on that? I mean, it's not going
No
to...
more than 20,000, right?
Okay.
it's not limited to 20,000. The estimate is 20,000. If it costs more money than that, they will be on the hook.
Mr. Trumper is going to be...
He's quite confident he can bring
Yes.
them in for that, but the town will be recompensed in full.
And I'm quite confident it's gonna get done sooner than later.
Yes.
It's got to be done soon. I'm glad for that.
Very soon.
Very glad.
All right, very good. Number 11, town board to discuss using ARPA money for the McGrath water study. So we did 2 water studies that we voted on, one for Chia Party and one for McGrath. Chia Party's covered on the ARPA money, and I'd like to use the ARPA money for McGrath. Everybody okay with that?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, privilege of the floor for agenda items. You can speak only what's on the agenda.
Louise Daniele. Regarding the renaming of the park, I just think that whatever it is that Arnold gave you should be given to the public, because we had no idea what you were referencing when he gave you a full historical background of it. It would be nice for the public to have that information as well. I don't think that the name should be changed, and I think that it is a little, I agree with everything that Greg said. I agree that they should have their own separate park. I agree that this is almost diminishing the Girl Scouts. It's almost like cancel culture of the Girl Scouts. And I also agree with Brian, where when I first came to this on the board, no one knows, I didn't know where that park was. I saw the park and I realized that was the park that we spent a lot of money for a bridge to be built in there for some equipment, but beyond that, I didn't know what it was.
It's a nice bridge.
It's a really expensive bridge. Yeah, I'm sure it is for the amount of money that we spent. It should be an excellent bridge. But yeah, if you were going to do improvements or something, I think it should, you should go with Greg with what he said. He's spot on. Like, it's just putting down the Girl Scouts. I don't think that you even really knew who owned it originally or what the background was. So I would think that once you figured it out like Greg did, that you would think like he would. And that's not saying anything negative about the veterans. I agree that there should be their own park, but I think making this one almost be put to the bottom is really not appropriate. Thank you. Oh, we forgot. Let's see, what was the other thing? I'm glad that the residents at 60 West Redoubt were able to work out and sign off on an agreement with Mr. Gaba so that the issue can be resolved. So thank you, Mr. Gaba, for working with them, because I know I spoke with them afterwards. They were happy to get that done sooner rather than later. There's something on the agenda that's at the bottom for resolution, but you didn't have anything on for a discussion. But I heard that the prior chief who left our town to go work somewhere else had threatened to sue our town if he didn't get severance pay, so I'd like to know if that's true for a salaried job. If it is true, we need to know more about it, because that conduct doesn't sound like someone who left in good standing. And the resolution that we usually take from police officers at the end of the memo should say that it was in good standing. So I would hope that you give the public more information on that and consider that when voting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? George? Yep.
Sorry. We definitely support, and I can speak for myself certainly as a veteran, that we support renaming the park accordingly. With the proximity of Castle Point there, and this is more just speculation on my part for however long it's going to remain in place, this is something that veterans are going to see, including myself, going back and forth to the hospital. We think it'll bring the right kind of attention, and we think it also continues with the outstanding work that the town board has done this year with promoting veterans. You know, and I think as we kicked into spring, that had to be one of the best Hometown Heroes banner ceremonies I've seen, the expansion of that. The second part would be the renaming of the highways and the dedications to our vets of the past. And we think this just kind of continues as kind of like Year of the Veteran. So if, you know, if our input has anything, or mine, please be it so. We're more than emphatically supportive of this. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McGoy?
I can appreciate the comments that were just made. However, you know, I do feel like it is an insult. I really agree very much with what Councilmember Titino is saying. This has been a long-standing park, and while it is in the purview of the town to rename this park, since you have bought the park, this has a long history. Of course, it would be nice that the historian actually share that with the public instead of just the council. But I think that not only are you renaming, you're kind of kicking the Camp Foster to the end of the title. So it's not even like Camp Foster Veterans Memorial Park. It is like an afterthought. And that is really dismissing the long-standing history of this town, of this area. So, you know, it may not mean anything to you, but as a former Girl Scout, it is important to me. And I do think that there are many times where things just, you know, well, it's not useful now. And so we're just going to rename it because it doesn't mean anything to us. I think that it's true. It can be improved. There can be improvements. And it's very disappointing that now when there is an opportunity to have it as a, you know, I don't know, personal gain, political gain, who knows, now all of a sudden there's going to be these improvements to the park. So I think that, you know, while I certainly understand and respect the comments that were made before me, I think that really it is dismissing this history, and I think it's a mistake.
Thank you, Mr. Goy. Anybody else? Russ?
I would just like to say while we're on the topic, it was not an omission by the town historian that the information which we reviewed for this evening was not on the agenda. The historian finished his report and sent it to the town board about an hour before the meeting started. So this is something he has been working on and completed as soon as he was able to. Otherwise, I know that the supervisor would have included that history in the background information for the item.
Listen, I'm a veteran. I think it's a great idea. I envision, we talk about the flags in front of the building over here. Imagine some beautiful flags leading to Castle Point and a park there, and I think a dedication plaque, given the history, I think would be above and beyond, because there's nothing out there even indicating what park it is. Russ, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all right. I respect both sides, and I understand the histories, but I think it should be something incorporated somehow a little more, that everything's included somehow.
It's in there. It
recognition,
says,
a real recognition, but with the history of the park. That would be excellent.
Okay.
Thanks.
You got something to say?
I do.
Okay. Identify who yourself is and, you know, where you live and who you work for.
Kevin McCarthy, Highway Department. Here on behalf of Superintendent Istvan regarding the local traffic law you spoke about earlier. We are in contact with DOT as well as Amazon, but DOT said, and I quote, "It will be months before we have a truck route established." So just let that.
But they are going to work on one.
Correct. But that's months from my 10 months in this position, months from the DOT.
A year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
But we got it in the queue. We got it in the pipeline. That's what's important.
Yeah.
Kevin, did you get the sense that the superintendent would prefer for us to sit on this for a little while until you guys get the clarification before we vote? Or is he happy for us to vote now and then sort of deal with the rest of it as it comes through from DOT?
That I can't speak to. He just wanted you guys to know that DOT is
on it,
doing what DOT is doing.
I think, you know, if we have this and it's in place, that way we can then designate or not designate, you know, something, but at least it's in place.
If I could, Carmine specifically told me that he wanted this law, Carmine being the highway superintendent, that he wanted this local law adopted and not to wait for DOT to come up with the truck route.
Right.
And for the very reason you just set forth.
And he and I have talked about this.
That's all
So,
I needed to know. Okay. Wanted to make sure.
Good. Thank you, sir. Next up is resolutions. So the first one will be, we talked about that loop system for the water district. So this one is for sewer for the gas station near the new Roundabout Firehouse. Now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill does hereby grant the request of Gunks Holding at 1562 Route 52, parcel number 6256-04574274-0000 to connect to the Dutchess Park Sewer District, and be it further resolved that such connection and expansion of the Dutchess Park Sewer District shall be contingent on the execution and compliance of the property owner's payment of all costs associated with this connection and district expansion, including engineering, material, installation, and labor, and let it be further resolved that the town supervisor or his authorized designee be hereby authorized to take any all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. I present it as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This one's the same thing with just water to the same property. Further resolved, the town supervisor and or his designee he and hereby authorized to take any of all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution, and be it further resolved, this resolution shall be effective immediately. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is the resolution to accept the resignation of Police Officer Dennis Karaman. Now therefore be resolved, Section 1, all whereas paragraphs incorporated herein are referenced set forth in full. Section 2, the town board hereby accepts the resignation of the police officer and further accepts the report from the officer in charge that he's leaving in good standing. Section 3, the town supervisor or his designee are and hereby directed to take any all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution. Section 4, this resolution shall be effective immediately. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up is resolution to promote Cassidy Scott to full-time police dispatcher. Now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Fishkill does hereby promote Cassidy Scott to full-time police dispatcher effective November 1st, 2024, at a rate of $22 per hour, and be it further resolved, the town supervisor and or his designee are hereby authorized to take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution, and be it further resolved, this resolution shall be effective immediately. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Next up is resolution introducing a proposed local law to enact new town code chapter 116. Whereas the town board of the town of Fishkill has proposed a local law before it entitled "A Local Law Amending Town Code of the Town of Fishkill by enacting a new chapter 116 called Rental Properties Prohibition of Eviction Without Good Cause." And whereas, in order to consider enacting the proposed local law, it must be formally introduced, and a public hearing must be scheduled and held upon it. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the movement of this resolution does hereby introduce the above proposed local law, and 2, that a public hearing on the proposed local law be set for November 20th, 2024 at 7 o'clock, and that the due notice of the same is directed to be given to the publication and posting. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Next up is resolution renaming Camp Foster as the Town of Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park. Now therefore it be resolved that the Park of Camp Foster is hereby named the Town of Fishkill Veterans Memorial Park at Camp Foster, and 2, the town shall procure and erect appropriate signage at Camp Foster, propriety posting the new officially designated name of the park. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, a vote?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 One against.
3-1. Next up, resolution to approve with owners of 60 West Redoubt for entry of a proposed main and repair sewer line, ID number 9617. Whereas the town board of the town of Fishkill has before it a proposed agreement with the owners of a certain real property located at 60 West Redoubt Road, Fishkill, New York, consenting to an entry and an order of the property maintenance proceedings commencing by the town for repair of a sewer line. And whereas the town board wishes to approve the said agreement, now therefore be resolved as follows. Number 1, the town board does hereby approve the proposed agreement, and 2, that the town supervisor is authorized to execute the said agreement and any documents necessary to carry out the terms thereof. Presented as motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next up, resolution, is this, oh, it's a traffic one. Resolution adopting a local law amending Town Code Chapter 143, Vehicle and Traffic, Resolution 9618, whereas the town board has before it consideration of a local law entitled "A Local Law Amending the Town of Fishkill Town Codes, Chapter 7, Town Highway Weight Limit, Chapter 143, Vehicles and Traffic, by revisiting the provisions of Section 143-21 entitled Vehicles Prohibited on Certain Streets, and by enacting a new Schedule D as in David entitled Prohibition and Limitations of Vehicles on Certain Streets. And whereas the following due notice of the town board held a public hearing on the proposed local law, now therefore it be resolved as follows. Number 1, the town board hereby adopts the said local law, and 2, that the local law shall be effective upon filing in the office of the Secretary of State in Albany. I present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Greg, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0. Next up is the hot dog one. Where are we at, number 10? Now therefore, the town board of the town of Fishkill approves the peddler and soliciting license to application for Wee Doggy's Hot Dog Wagon. I present it as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second.
John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next up, resolution order to Chapter 113, confirming report and remediation violations of 60 West Redoubt. Mr. Gamble, why is there two of these things?
Well, the first one approves the entry into the agreement with the property owner in which they consent to entry of an order in the property maintenance proceedings. So they waive the public hearing, they waive service of notice, and they say you can enter this order directing that, well, finding that the violation exists and then directing that the order be remediated. The second resolution actually adopts the order, finding that.
Understood. Okay.
Steve, is this basically the equivalent sort of pleading no contest?
Yes.
No. All right.
In terms of how it affects the process, I should
Well,
say.
yeah, it's a little more than that, Greg. It's basically waiving trial and going right to entry of a judgment.
Okay.
Now therefore be resolved as follows. Number one, the town board hereby confirms the report of the building inspector and finds the property maintenance violation under Town Code Chapter 113 exists at the subject property due to the leaking sewer line. Number two, the town board hereby authorizes the town of Fishkill water and sewer operator Camo Pollution Control to undertake the work necessary for connecting the property maintenance violation. And three, the cost expensed by the town in connection with the property maintenance violation shall be levied against the subject property and collected in the same manner as provided in Article 15 of the town law for the levy and collection of special ad valorem levy. And four, the town assessor is hereby authorized, directed to take all actions necessary for effecting the levy and collection of the town's said costs and expenses. And five, that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all necessary documents in connection with the above. Presented as motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next one up is resolution to use ARPA money to pay for the McGrath water study. Now therefore be resolved that Section 1 of the town board authorized the use of ARPA funds in the amount not to exceed $18,000 for payment of the water study complete on McGrath Boulevard by MJ Engineering Consultant. The town supervisor authorized and directed to execute any documents necessary to give full effect to the same. Section 3, this resolution shall be effective immediately. I present it as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
John, all in favor?
Aye.
Next up is resolution to accept letter of resignation of Chief of Police Keith Dworkin. Now therefore it be resolved by the town board as follows. All whereas paragraphs and corporations herein by reference are set forth in full. The town board hereby accepts the resignation of Chief of Police Keith Dworkin effective July 19th, 2024. I'll present that as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Do a roll call vote on that, Becky?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This is the town attorney. Is there dialogue still going on about this? I mean, can we vote on this and they come to a resolution at some point in time in the future? Like, there was a lot of emails going back and forth, so I want to make sure.
My understanding is there still is dialogue going on. I am not involved in the dialogue. In terms of, can you vote on this? Yeah, you absolutely can vote on this if you want to.
And we could bring it up later if you wanted to also.
You could revisit the issue, sure, it's just a
Absolutely.
resolution.
Okay.
Do we,
I want to,
do we table it tonight
No.
then?
No.
But you can bring it up again? All right, which is what you said.
Yep.
So, just so I'm clear, so we vote on this tonight, that's 4-0 vote. Does that stop the process about what's going on between the attorneys?
I don't know the answer to that, John. I mean, does it legally stop it? No, of course not. They could still talk, but what effect it'll have on those discussions, I don't know.
Okay.
Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Rye?
Yes.
Councilmember Foreman?
Yes.
Councilmember Totino?
Yes.
Supervisor Albert?
No.
And who seconded that?
I did.
Thank you, John.
You write on your vote?
Yeah. Therefore, we passed it.
Then it passes. All right, next up, that was the last one? All
That was the
right.
last one.
Next up is 2 items for special consideration. The town board, whereas the town board has received a memorandum from the Recreation Director, Jason Maeda, requesting the town board appoint additional part-time recreation assistant, Bjarne Santos, to work for the Recreation Department, whereas funding of this request included in the 2024 adopted budget, CR 73155-0012, and now therefore it be resolved by the town board as follows. Section 1 of the above paragraphs are incorporated herein as referenced through full Section 2. The town board hereby appoints Ms. Santos to part-time employees in the Recreation Department. Attached hereto, the seasonal items at the rate of pay as attached, with such employment and conditional improvement of completion of any and all requisite pre-employment screenings and the approval of Dutchess County Human Resources. Section 3, the town supervisor or his designee are hereby directed to take any and all actions necessary to carry out the provisions of this resolution. I'll present that in a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, what's the next one? Next one is discussion and a resolution to retain counsel for fire protection services for downstate. So there's a discussion on this. Anybody wishes to discuss this? Can. Any comments? We're good with this, the resolution?
Yeah.
All right. Resolution to retain counsel RE Fire Protect Services for Downstate Correctional Facility, ID number 9627. Whereas the state of New York owns Downstate Correctional Facility property in the town of Fishkill, and whereas the state ceased using the said property as a correctional facility, and whereas the Downstate Correctional Facility property is not in any fire district, and whereas since the Downstate property will no longer be used as a state correctional facility, it is necessary and appropriate for the town to consider the means by which fire protection will be provided to the said property going forward, and whereas the town board wishes to retain the law firm of McConnell and Considine, Kuhlman and Morin PLLC as special counsel to the town in regard to the issue of provision of fire protection services for the Downstate Correctional Facility property, and whereas the town board has received the attached engagement letter from McConnell, Considine, Kuhlman and Morin PLLC, now therefore it be resolved as follows, that the town board does hereby approve retaining McConnell, Considine, Kuhlman and Morin PLLC as special counsel, and that the supervisor, number 2, that the supervisor authorize execute a retainer agreement regarding the same. Presented as a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. New and,
It was Brian got me on that one.
Brian got you on that one?
Yeah.
Next
got
thing,
it.
new and old business. John, we'll start with you again.
Yeah, I have a little old business. I'm going to read I'm going to summarize a blurb from the Association of Towns regarding even year election litigation update. On October 8th, 2024, the Onondaga Supreme Court issued an order and decision stating that the even year election bill adopted by New York State in 2023 violated Article 9 of New York State Constitution and cannot be enforced. In short, the even year election bill changed the election years for certain county and town officials from odd years to even years in order to coincide with state and federal elections. State's justification adopting this law was that it would increase voter turnout in local elections and reduce confusion. Multiple counties and towns around the state commenced lawsuits challenging the law on the basis that it violated Article 9 of the New York State Constitution, which essentially grants local governments authority over local matters, also known as and referred to as home rule authority. The various lawsuits were consolidated into one action, and all arguments on the matter were heard by Onondaga Supreme Court. And I'm just going to finish up. The court stated that the timing of local elections was not a matter of state concern, and therefore the state did not have the authority to adopt legislation changing it. In reaching this conclusion, the court noted that New York City was not included in the even year election bills, nor were all local government offices, thus undermining the state's assertion that the law furthered a state interest. The court succinctly summarized its finding by stating, "We have seen with Article 9, the fact is, it would take a constitutional amendment to change the elections for any local offices. There is simply no state interest in the timing and changing of terms of local offices." That's it.
Brian?
Just a couple of things. Want to talk with you about revisiting our affordable housing program and what we need to do to research that and kind of get it going. So I'm just letting you know I want to chat with you about that, what we need to do. And that's pretty much it.
Greg?
I just wanted to flag one thing, since we were talking about veterans with Veterans Day coming up next month. Just wanted to flag that 2 of our local colleges, Marist and Army, will be playing a Veterans Appreciation game, men's basketball, at the McCann Arena up in Poughkeepsie on Friday, November 15th. Tickets are free for all veterans and a +1 of those veterans. I just wanted to let everybody know about that. Great opportunity to support our local veterans here in the Hudson Valley, and of course to cheer on the Army Black Knights or the Marist Red Foxes, or both, depending on your allegiances. I just wanted to flag that for everyone.
Okay. I got one more.
We don't meet again until Wednesday, November 6th, so making sure everybody is reminded to get out and vote.
Is it okay to do an e-gov? Do we all support the selling of the house? Can I mention that in e-gov? That all four of us support that, to sell it?
Yeah, I do.
Um,
Not the fire, we're not talking about the fire.
Not buying anything, no, no.
No, not buying anything,
To
selling the...
to sell 8182 Route 52.
I kind of thought we resolved that.
Well, I just want to make sure before, if I...
Yes.
Because people are calling me, asking me, what should they do? And I want to say,
Go for it. Go
okay,
for it.
all right. I have to disagree with my friend here, Councilman Foreman, about the even year elections. This was a judge in upstate New York that made this ruling. It'll go to the quarter, it'll go to the, it'll make its way up to the Court of Appeals, and that's got a long way to go. The reason New York City and other offices were not involved in this thing was that in the Constitution, you can't change a city to do that. So you had a few counties which have county executives in their charter, and basically what the judge said was a county with a charter and basically a county executive can do what he explained. They can do their own elections. But the problem with that, I think there was only 6 counties involved out of the 58 New York counties. So what the judge applied that to was those counties to counties like Sullivan and Columbia that don't have these type of charters or county executives to the same thing. So it's a due process thing. I think it's going to get overturned. I'm pretty sure it's going to get overturned, and I think it's going to stand.
Did you say you didn't agree with me? Well,
No,
I'm just reading from...
I said I agree with the part of the decision where the counties can make their own law.
Yeah.
I don't agree with the decision where the counties that have those laws.
I think we might find out that we might have to follow town law, which is governed by the state.
Yeah, but the counties that don't have county executives and stuff like that, how can a judge force those counties?
I'm just reading.
Yeah, so that's, and then he mentioned New York City, and the law specifically left out New York City was the state constitution. You can't do counties, you can't do the judges, there's a few positions that you can't do it on. So I anticipate that to get overturned, well, at least part of it getting overturned. So the next meeting is November 6th, and God bless America, God bless Fishkill. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you guys for watching, good night. Down 2-0?
Yeah.